Hello again, folks. Now, Joe Lycett here in the UK is a rare lefty comedian. And I say rare because he is a funny lefty comedian and there's not many of them. And his material isn't all about bashing everything that's British. He dips into all aspects of life. It's all observational and it's all funny. I'm not saying how comedy should be, but it's my preferred comedy anyway. So he is trending right now on Twitter because he has written a spoof Sue Gray report. And of course, the Sue Gray report is trending on Twitter because it's something that could bring down Boris Johnson. And two and two together, lefties Twitter hate Boris Johnson. So naturally, this thing is trending. So I've read his spoof Sue Gray report and it's quite funny. And the reason he's done this is because he is angry at the government. And I will read to you what he's written. He said, "I'm angry right now because of the same reason many other people are angry. In the early stages of lockdown in 2020, my best friend died from cancer. But he died at the start of lockdown and I wasn't there because I was following the rules. And we had a tiny insufficient funeral because we were following the rules. And I drove his kids away from that funeral back to Birmingham without any sort of wake because we were following the rules. And it felt unnatural and cruel and almost silly. But we did it because we followed the rules. So I suppose, like thousands of others with their own stories, I'm angry about that." And he's absolutely right. I get that. All right, okay, I've said Boris Johnson is the best of a bad bunch and he should stay as Prime Minister. But, you know, if they did break lockdown rules and the report comes out and says, listen, they were all doing this when they shouldn't have, then it's wrong. You can't govern the people and tell them to follow rules and not follow that rule yourself. I understand the country's sentiment and anger over this, and it's not misplaced at all. But when it comes to people dying of terminal diseases and having important life-saving operations put on hold because of what I believe is the NHS playing politics, then you can't really blame the government for everything about this. You see, during the height of the lockdown and afterwards, the NHS themselves were lobbying the government and campaigning on social media, mainly Twitter, for the government to impose even further, stronger lockdown restrictions. And they did this without a hint of irony. You see, during the height of the pandemic back in 2020, the NHS were turning away patients. People with terminal diseases were having their treatment postponed. People expecting life-saving surgeries were being told again that their operations were being postponed because of the overwhelming impact of the plague, or so-called overwhelming impact. Because I have heard stories upon stories of people who went to hospitals that we were told were full to the brim of plague patients, when in fact there were wards upon wards of nothing but emptiness. We've even had doctors and nurses come out to the media to say this, and they've had their careers ruined, gone. It's all over. No more being doctors and nurses. And remember, it was the NHS that told us all to stay indoors, keep within the lockdown safety measures, social distancing, wear a mask, etc. Don't go anywhere you needn't have to go to. Otherwise, we'll all put massive pressure on the NHS. And people will be dying in their droves, in corridors, tents outside the hospitals, etc. And the plague death tally would be astronomical. Of course, none of that happened. It's a fact. None of that happened. Because I am telling you now, if the wards were overflowing with plague patients and if the dead were piling up, then none of the doctors and nurses would have had time to practice intricate dance routines and put them on TikTok. That to me was alarm bells and a red flag all in one, that something wasn't right. So it wasn't just the government that lied. I think it was the NHS that lied as well, and people died. I mean, even in the United States of America, they are denying patients life-saving transplants simply because they haven't had the jab. Now, how the hell does behaviour like that stand with a Hippocratic oath? And if it's happening in the United States of America, it'll happen here. So people like Joe Lycett, they do feel vindicated and that they should be blaming the government for the deaths of friends and family, when in fact they should also be blaming the NHS. I don't believe the NHS is fit for purpose. and that has now become a political wing of the left-wing Labour Party. I mean, the NHS had doctors and nurses who were Labour supporters, stringent Labour supporters who lied through their teeth on social media and to the mainstream media, who were more than willing to listen to them when they lied about the lack of PPE to do their job. Now, in my view, the NHS needs reform, root and stem, and it needs to be depoliticised, because politics hasn't done it any favours whatsoever. So you've got all these left-wing political activists within the NHS now who are just ruining it for everyone and are quite willing to put people's lives in jeopardy just so that everyone votes Labour the way they want. Terrible, isn't it? Anyway, that's my video. Let me know what you think in the comments. And until my next video, Roger Trout.